This is the F-160 Raiju, a jet that has been dubbed the best flying vehicle in all of Grand Theft Auto Online after its release. It is the fastest flying aircraft in the game, it features an explosive machine gun, and even has a stealth mode, plus it can hover. These are all amazing attributes, and there's really not a single flying vehicle that can check every single one of these boxes, having speed, agility, decent armor, and just everything going for it. But I have an aircraft that might just be able to rival the F-160 Raiju, and that is the Rogue. Not only is this a much cheaper aircraft, but even if we take aside the price tag differences, I would still be willing to say that the Rogue holds a very close competition to the Raiju. So in today's video, I'll be comparing both of these aircraft. I'll be talking about their strengths, advantages, and disadvantages across from each other, and which of the two I personally like better. So let's get straight into it. Let's start off with the most obvious of comparisons, the price tag. The F-160 Raiju comes in at $5.1 million, and that's if you own the Avengers Special Hub and you've done all of Charlie's missions. Let's be real, the missions suck. Every single YouTuber says not to waste your money on it. If you don't end up doing those missions, the actual price tag of the Raiju is going to be more like $6.5 million, making this one of the most expensive aircraft in all of GTA, right up there next to the Laser. We're going to take a brief look at the customization that is also going with this jet before we make our way over to the Rogue. Now the Raiju, to be honest, doesn't have that much customization. You have a simple armor upgrade, you have engine, handling, we have some liveries, which is pretty sweet, and that is it. There's no weapon upgrades, there's no flares, nothing like that. So in terms of upgrades, I would definitely say the Raiju is missing the bar. Let's compare that to the Rogue. In terms of price tag, the Rogue is going to be winning every single competition. It's $1.2 million, and unlike having to spend money to get the trade price with the F-160 Raiju, you don't need to spend any money. You just need to complete a couple sale missions with the hangar, which is super easy to do. So overall, the Rogue is way better in terms of price tag, and it's also way better in terms of customization. Not only can you equip bombs on this aircraft, which is absolutely epic, but you can also go over to countermeasures and equip flares or chaffs depending on what your current playstyle is. I personally like flares better. You have 20 of them, you can just spam them all day, but the chaffs are also really good. Overall, customization is a flat dub when it comes to the Rogue. Now, you will have to spend some money on your primary weapons, like the explosive MG, and the homing missiles. You're going to have to spend about $400,000 to equip, so it's going to be more like $1.5 to $6 million to get the Rogue and fully upgrade it, but that's still multiple times cheaper than the F-160 Raiju. Something that has always rather confused me is the fact that the Rogue gets bombs, and then you look at the F-160 Raiju, and it literally has bombs underneath it. We can see, looking underneath the F-160 Raiju, it has absolutely massive bombs. I mean, those are probably 500, 600 pound bombs, and for some reason you're not able to drop them, which is weird because the missiles are right underneath the weapon bay. But yeah, bombs, I don't really understand that. Like, it doesn't make sense to me why Rockstar put bombs in the F-160 Raiju if you can't use them. It's so irritating. The way I'm going to compare the jets is very simple. I'm going to talk about all the things the F-160 Raiju has going for it, its strengths, capabilities, top speed, and then after we're done with that, I'm going to talk about all the things the Rogue has going for it, and then with ending remarks, I'm going to talk about which of these aircraft I like better, just in case you wanted to hear a thing or two about these flying vehicles. So let's start off with the F-160 Raiju. What are its capabilities? Well, first of all, if you hide the weapons, which we can see I have the ability to hide, we are in stealth mode. Stealth mode is incredible. Essentially, nobody can see me on the map. I have no blip. So if I'm ever in a public session, it's really nice. Now, personally, I don't really see that much of a use case for stealth mode. I mean, the only real use case I can see is for griefers rolling up to somebody doing special cargo, and then right before they get to them, they pull out their weapons and nuke them with a missile. Because, I mean, for a grinder, you're not going to use this jet. Like, what's it going to help you do? Fly over to your vehicle? They're still going to see the vehicle on the ground. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, stealth mode's great and all, but I feel like flares are going to make you live longer once somebody actually sees your jet in the sky. But I can definitely see some of the use case where going in the stealth is going to help help you, especially against people that are hard of seeing in dogfights. But yeah, I don't feel like it's as good as some people are saying. So stealth mode, it's nice, but not my personal cup of tea. I barely even use it, to be honest. The major thing that I like about the Raiju is that it has a hover mode. This is a huge advantage over really any jet or flying vehicle that doesn't have hover mode, because it means if you're ever planning on doing missions or tasks that involve you landing, this is just way easier. You can just land it wherever you are instantly, and I mean, that's super easy. So because of that, obviously the Raiju is amazing. The hover mode alone is what makes this jet so darn good. But it's not just that. The Raiju also features, obviously, missiles, which is really solid. It is the basic homing missiles, so you're not going to be able to spam them, but it still does feature homing missiles. But it also has an explosive machine gun. It's not the best explosive machine gun. The mounting point's a little weird. As we can see, they're mounted on the wing, just like the Rogue, so it can be a bit awkward to shoot people, but still, the explosive MG does a decent amount of damage, and if there's any flying vehicles, you can very easily rip off parts they do feature. The final things I should mention about the F-160 Raiju: it can survive one explosion. The second one will basically knock it out. It's just going to fall out of the sky and you're going to have to bail. The other thing that is very cool about the Raiju, the other thing about the Raiju is that it is the fastest flying jet in all the game. It features a top speed of 232 miles per hour, which is quite a bit faster than all the other flying vehicles. It also features the best lap time for all the jets, but that makes sense because it's super, super fast in overall top speed. So the Raiju is fast, it has a hover mode, and it is incredibly effective at being a silent sniper, rolling up on your opponents, and then absolutely nuking them with the explosive MG. Personally, I would definitely rate this a solid 9 out of 10 when it comes to jets. The only reason it doesn't get that 10 out of 10 is because it is super expensive and it doesn't feature bombs or flares, which is something that I would expect from a jet that literally has bombs underneath it. And now we arrive at the Rogue, an aircraft that you wouldn't think has much of a chance against a modern stealth fighter, but in reality, it's actually quite strong. Let's start off with the weaponry. The Rogue actually features a really solid explosive MG. It does about double the damage on each explosion than the Raiju, which means if you're dealing with any ground targets or air targets, the Rogue will be much better if you're able to hit your opponents. Now for air targets, the Rogue's pretty hard to use because of how far apart the weapons are mounted. They're on the wing rather than the front nose. But it's much better for bombing runs, essentially, because if there's people on the ground that you're trying to hit, it does a much larger burst radius, and as we can see, it's just really easy to spread the shots all over the ground, making it easier to kill people and blow up vehicles. So it depends on what you're really trying to do. But overall, I'd still say the explosive MG is definitely better on the Rogue, because it does deal more damage. Missiles are exactly the same on both of these jets. They have the same speed, everything, accuracy. There's one thing that the Rogue has that obviously the Raiju doesn't, and that is bombs. I honestly think it's pretty cool that this plane does have bombs, but yeah, you can just spam them out of the bottom. And one other thing that's really interesting about bomb mode is if you're playing on console like me, or not console, but if you're playing with a remote, you can press the B button and it will keep your jet flying wherever you are. So I can tilt the plane still, I can still turn it and things like that, as we can see, but the game will keep my aircraft at a level trajectory and it will not crash into anything. It'll just keep flying like this. It's basically autopilot. If there's something above you, you can just ignore it. This is a really cool ability because let's say that you want to go, I don't know, somewhere across the map and you don't want to actually have to fly there or like press any buttons. You can literally just put it into autopilot by pressing the bomb button and then just letting the plane fly there without actually doing anything. You can sip some water, do whatever. It's just really, really fun because of this. Plus, you can drop some bombs out of it, which is also really, really epic. So that's a big advantage for the Rogue. The other couple advantages it has, well, first of all, it does have 2 seats, which means that you can actually transport people. It can survive 2 more explosions. The Rogue can actually survive 4 explosions. The 5th one blows it up. The 4th one will knock it out of the sky, but as long as you parachute out, you'll be completely fine. And not only can it survive more explosions, but it also features flares, and you can absolutely spam these flares like crazy. So if anybody's trying to shoot missiles at you, good luck. They're not going to hit. Now, even though the Rogue can coast at a very slow speed because it's a propellered aircraft, that does not mean it is a slow flyer. It can reach a top speed of 220 miles per hour. Sure, that's not the 232 that the Raiju has, but that's pretty close, to be honest, for an aircraft that's 5 times less in price. It is also very maneuverable, only being about 2 seconds slower on lap times and overall performance in handling. So because of that, I would definitely say that the Rogue does win in the maneuverability area because you can coast at a much slower speed. It means that if you're ever fighting a Raiju, you can just very easily turn your aircraft at slow speeds, allowing you to outmaneuver the turning radius. Obviously, if you're going faster, but you're going at a much larger circle, it's going to take a lot more time than if you're going slower to do a circle like this. So, pretty simple stuff. Overall, the Rogue is a better dogfighter. It's 100% a better dogfighter. But the Raiju is a much better stealth fighter and mission-completing jet. Because obviously, let's say I gotta land, I don't know, here to complete a mission. Well, crap, I gotta land all the way in the middle of nowhere, so I'm gonna have to pull out my landing gear. And yeah, this plane does have pretty good survivability, so what I usually do if I want to land it is I'll just smash it into an object. But still, you have to slow it down, then you have to, bring it on the land here, and then make sure you don't knock off the propeller. It does require quite a bit more effort to land something like the Rogue, and then obviously it's going to slide down the hill a bit. It's way easier to use the Raiju. Personally, I like the Rogue more. It is way cheaper, as we went over, and I feel like it has super solid capabilities. If I'm ever in the situation where somebody's trying to shoot me out of the sky, I'd much rather have the better resistance against explosions and the fact that I have flares, plus a better turning radius, than the fact that I can go invisible and hover. Yes, the hover mode's going to help you in certain engagements, and it's cool. It's a fun jet to mess around with, but in terms of practicality, I like the Rogue more. I think it looks better, and it's just a way simpler aircraft. Plus, I can own like 5 of these for the same price as one Raiju, so if one Rogue gets blown up, I can just call another out instantly. So, yeah, I personally like the Rogue more. Let me know in the comments down below if you agree or disagree with my points. Obviously, this is just one man's opinion, and by no means am I calling the Raiju bad. I just think for what it is, the Rogue is an incredibly underrated plane, and people should pay more attention to it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.